President Tinubu inaugurates National Theatre, now renamed Wole Soyinka Center for Culture and Creative Arts in Lagos.
Nigeria at 65, federal government pledges continued progress.
Our administration has redirected the economy towards a more inclusive path.
Nigerian Railway Corporation resumes Abuja-Kaduna train services.
Thank God that the train has resumed work today. We are very much grateful.
And good morning, Nigeria. Today our focus is on Nigeria-China Bilateral Cooperation.
October 1st is a day of double significance. It marks Nigeria's independence in 1960 and also the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949.
Quite interesting, Victor. And both countries share more than just the date. Over the past 2 decades, Nigeria and China have deepened ties in trade, infrastructure, technology, and even cultural exchange.
Think of the rail projects in Abuja, for instance, and the Lagos-Calabar corridor, or power deals aimed at boosting electricity generation. China has been a key partner in driving all of this.
Indeed, and the trade numbers tell their own story. By 2023, volumes hit about $18 billion, making China one of Nigeria's biggest partners. But of course, we import far more than we export.
Beyond infrastructure and trade, there is agriculture, digital economy, and even media partnerships. Both countries have signed multiple agreements to strengthen collaboration.
And one example, Victor, is the Star Times, the collaboration between NTA and China. And still the relationship raises questions about dependency, sovereignty, and how to balance foreign investments with local capacity.
And so today on Good Morning Nigeria, we'll be exploring the opportunities and risks in Nigeria-China relations. I am Victor Azo. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Now I'm Juma Yusuf. Up next, the newspaper review with Chukwudi Okolubaja. But first, the morning news with Dennis Adegunoye. Dennis, good morning. A rainy night we had.
Good morning.
Very rainy night. I thought I wasn't going to get to the office. Hello, Jume and Victor. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. As Nigeria clocks 65 years of independence, President Bola Tinubu is assuring Nigerians that his administration will continue to channel resources into critical socio-economic sectors to improve the quality of education, healthcare and infrastructure developments, while also ensuring availability of good food on the tables of Nigerians. This assurance is coming from the president as he addressed Nigerians on the occasion of the 65th independence anniversary of the country.
Our administration has redirected the economy towards a more inclusive path, channeling money to fund education, healthcare, national security, agriculture, and political economic infrastructure, such as roads, power, broadband, and social investment programs. These initiatives will generally improve Nigerians' quality of life.
President Bola Tinubu has inaugurated the newly renovated National Arts Theatre, now the Wole Soyinka Center for Culture and Creative Arts. Located in Igamu, Surulere, Lagos, the theatre, a national monument, is the first national center for performing arts in Nigeria. It was first constructed in 1976 in preparation for the Festival of Arts and Culture, Festac, in 1977. The architecture is said to be similar to the Palace of Culture and Sports in Varna, Bulgaria, though the Nigerian structure is 4 times larger. The edifice takes the shape of a military hat and was first built by a Bulgarian construction company. originally featured a 5,000-seat main hall with a collapsible stage, fully equipped for simultaneous translation in 8 languages, a cinema, arts centres and much more. After its initial glory years, the National Theatre suffered decades of neglect due to poor maintenance and funding, making the structure deteriorate. In 2020, renovation of the facility, a joint effort between the governments and the private sector, began. The upgrading covered the main auditorium, exhibition halls, banquet spaces, and surrounding infrastructure. 4 creative hubs dedicated to fashion, music, film production, and information technology were integrated into the 44-hectare site. In July 2024, President Tinubu renamed the facility in honor of Nobel laureates Wole Soyinka. In a heartwarming display of compassion, Speaker of the House of Representatives Tajuddin Abbas marked his 60th birthday by celebrating the special day with internally displaced persons at the Malaysian Garden IDP camp in Abuja. The Speaker, whose birthday coincides with Nigeria's independence anniversary, gave assurances that the 10th Assembly remains committed to policies that protect the vulnerable and restore dignity to every citizen.
In the spirit of this celebration, we reaffirm our commitment to strengthening social welfare initiatives that touch the lives of the poor and vulnerable.
With your support, Mr. Speaker, we can go further than ever before in fulfilling our shared responsibility.
Now, for days, Nigerians feared another round of fuel scarcity following a nationwide strike by the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Pengasin, over the alleged dismissal of some workers at the Dangote refinery. That anxiety has now eased as the federal government stepped in to broker peace between the Oil and Gas Union and the Dangote Group.
We need to have workers going back to work. We need to have the gas flowing. We need to have crude flowing as inputs into production, which is where the economy is.
And the Nigerian Railway Corporation has successfully conveyed passengers to and from Abuja and Kaduna on its first day of resumed operations, marking a significant milestone in efforts to revitalize rail transportation in Nigeria. The passengers on board the train expressed delight and relief at the resumption of services, highlighting the importance of these developments for commuters and the economy.
Thank God that the train has resumed work today. We are very much grateful.
And I'm also very happy that it just fell on Independence Day. So to me, it's a sign that Nigeria is moving forward. There's hope and progress for Nigeria.
And that's the news at this time. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Victor and Jimmy after this break. Stay with us.
The Renewed Hope Initiative RHI presents the RHI Green Nigeria Challenge. Go green today for a greener tomorrow. This national competition is in 3 categories. The household category is a tree planting competition amongst 11 frontline states in northern Nigeria. Each participating household in Adamawa, Borno, Bauchi, Gombe, Jigawa, Kano, Katsina, Kebbi, Sokoto, Yobe and Zamfara states will plant a minimum of 1 tree to qualify, with a video evidence of before and after the tree planting exercise. 20 million naira will be awarded to the best household. Submission deadline is 20th December 2026. Community category will see local governments, local communities, schools and NGOs reclaim and transform degraded or abandoned areas such as dump sites, landfills, parks and their likes into green, vibrant gardens, parks and eco-friendly spaces. 50 million naira would be awarded to the overall best community group. Deadline for submission is 15th July 2026. State category will have all states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, excluding Enugu State, have a chance to address the growing threats to environmental sustainability and cleanliness. States will be judged based on the number of trees planted on major roads and inner streets and how clean they are. 100 million naira will be awarded to the best performing state. Already, Enugu State has 100 million naira for being RHI's model green state due to its greenery and cleanliness. Video evidence must be submitted by participating states on or before 20th December 2026. All entries must be directed to RHI Office, State House, Abuja, or email rhi.greenchallenge@statehouse.gov.ng. RHI Green Nigeria Challenge. Go green today for a greener tomorrow.
Milo 3-in-1 Milky and Creamy is truly milky and contains calcium. So, no need to add milk for that rich, creamy cup, which helps to nourish your kids. Milo 3-in-1 is such a smart choice. Milo, energy to go further.
From Nestle.
Progress no dey happen just like that. It dey come from support when you need am.
Mommy, I got the school fees. You too much.
Na money point o.
Money point, thank you.
Customer, na transfer abi? Confirm.
Bro, na transfer.
Na money point oga. Oh, na confirm.
Progress na peace of mind when you know say payment go land as Sure Banker. Progress na small wind where they carry person go far.
No worry, yourself go make am. Mo go buy ball.
Victor, even you dey use money point?
Of course now, they use money point.
Confirm.
Money Point, made for your progress.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
On October 1st, 1960, a new nation was born. Nigeria stood tall, raising her green and white banner of unity, hope, and freedom. From the early struggles of nationhood, through moments of triumph, challenges, and resilience, the Nigerian Television Authority has been there, telling our stories, preserving our history, shaping our voices, and bringing Nigerians together across every region, every home. The laughter, the tears, the milestones, and the dreams. As Nigeria celebrates 65 years of independence, we at NTA remain proud to be part of this remarkable story. Nigeria's journey is our story, and the story continues. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria.
All right, thank you for staying with us. Now let's see what's making rounds on the front pages this morning. Time for newspaper review.
Newspaper reviewer Chukudi Okoli Uvaja is in the studio and is already making me smile this beautiful morning.
Thank you, Juma. The feeling is mutual.
It's mutual.
Hello,
Victor is jealous.
How are you doing?
Well, I'm well, and the feeling between us is also
There was
mutual.
some hesitation. You're not very sure you're well.
Well, I wanted to say not good to see you, but anyway, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good morning, Victor. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
You're
Welcome.
a great guy any day.
All right, let's begin with the Daily Trust. And the only story I see here is reading insecurity. Over 180 schools shut in North. And that story spreads across pages 3, 4, and 5. All right, and to the leadership we go. Above the nameplate, reactions as Kano governor demands police commissioner's removal is on page 4. Oil union suspends strike, urges Dangote refinery to honor agreement is on page 4 also. And on page 26, rift in PDP over Akwa Ibom executive dissolution. And I think that's about it from the leadership. Jumai?
Yeah, I have the blueprint and this Nigerian newspaper. Let me begin with the blueprint. And just below, above the masthead of the blueprint, recommit yourself to unity, national development. NOA charges Nigerians. You find the details on page 9. And below the masthead, more opposition governors set to join APC. That's attributed to the Senate President Godswill Akpabio. And Business Nigeria. Nigeria's reserves hit 6-year high on 5.28 billion second quarter 2025 surplus. You find the details on page 23. And on sports, under 20 World Cup, Flying Eagles seek redemption against Saudi Arabia. Details on page 32. Now let's come to the headlines. FG brokers Dangote refinery, Pengerson peace deal, union suspends strike. Refinery to redeploy reabsorbed workers. Details on page 8. And a side piece of the picture story. 2027, Lukman cries over hijack of ADC structures. Urges El Rufai others to stop the madness. Find the details on page 8. And in Benue, anxiety trails Remi Tinubu's 1 billion Yelwata IDPs lifeline. With riders, we suffer neglect. First Lady's intervention, our only hope. We're taking care of them. Report on disbursement to be presented to Governor Ali soon. That's coming from the committee. And 6 killed in Jato Akagan duel. Find the details all on page 14 and page 8. At the bottom plate, no project will be abandoned under Tinubu's watch. That's coming from the Secretary to Government Akume. Page 10. Kogi months as boat mishap death toll rises to 26. And details on page 15. And Kwara killings, Pan-Yoruba groups write UN allege genocide. Details on page 15. Let's quickly go to this Nigerian newspaper, and by the side piece of the masthead, Pengerson suspends strike after FG's intervention. And the headlines, visas anxiety over Nigerian applicants over US shutdown. You find the details on page 4. And Greater Nigeria, Tinubu's building blocks. You can see the graphic illustration there. You can go to this Nigerian newspaper to know what it's talking about, what it's all about. Mr. Chooks?
Thank you, Juma. The Yelwata story, the plea is let them not just disburse fairly and judiciously, but to disburse promptly. You know, some people would spend a lot of money on burying their parents when they die. You go to check how they looked after them when they were living, and you say, God forbid, you know. Well, it's not exactly the same case here, but if we want to reduce the misery of people, the agony of people, you know, in the Yelwata, on the Yelwata access, the earlier we act on that 1 billion that came from the initiative of the First Lady, the better. Is very important. We are happy that Dangote and Pengerson have reached, yes, these things will happen. I put out stuff on social media I said, Bengasin should be careful. It is not exactly like going on strike when NNPCL had a... This is private business. It's not exactly the same thing. Look at what happened now. The 800 people sacked but reabsorbed have been redeployed because there is fear that, look, where they are might not be safe for the... You understand? So these are some intricate issues that people have to build in. Unionization is guaranteed by the Constitution. Freedom of assembly, association, they solidly back unionization. But the man will tell you, or rather the company, let's leave Dangote alone, the company will tell you that $20 billion is not my you pick up on the...
It's not my.
Do you understand? So these are issues people have to weigh. Because at a point, the man might decide, let me not employ Nigerians, let me get expatriates to do it. He will pay more money.
That's within his rights.
That's it. So we have to be careful, you know. But I am happy.
Yeah, but there are limits.
But I am happy.
Yeah, I know there are limits.
Yes, there's a quota. Fine. I am happy that the strike has been called off. Let us see it as something we learn from. 188 public schools shut down due to insecurity in northern Nigeria, attacks on villages by bandits. First of all, let us remember, in journalism, you must differentiate between an investigated story and a story that has attribution. Attribution means this was disclosed by the minister, this was said by the minister, there's a source. But this is investigation by Daily Trust. So let us pray that it is quite a clinical. They did a very good job.
I love investigative journalism. Yesterday,
no, I'm not castigating it.
I was watching BBC yesterday, and the investigative, report on the police, by the journalist was it was breaking news.
No. BBC, it's actually my first class.
It was so detailed,
It's robust journalism.
Yes.
It's journalism that does not pander or plead because there's social media. When people say social media, when you need news, you just go to social media. Social media does not verify.
It doesn't.
They take their camera, see 5 prostrate bodies on the road, and they say 5 people have died in an accident. 3 of them could still be breathing. We journalists are the ones who test out how they got to the hospital, and 3 got revived.
Just like Victor's investigative report on the passports that
I've seen 2 by him.
Yeah,
Victor,
awesome.
No vex, so this is what they talk about. Anomina. This guy is good.
Good.
Awesome. So we too can be better than BBC.
Yes.
It's in the attitude. It's in the belief. But then, if Victor can only have two meals in a day, I don't know how.
I actually eat 2 meals in a day. That's what I eat.
So journalists need to be well padded.
Well padded for them to bring that kind of report,
But we love our job. It's a great job.
We do.
And
then let's talk about this visa anxiety among Nigerian applicants over the shutdown. U.S. shutdown is still ongoing. The U.S. government is down completely.
But that's not peculiar. That's not peculiar to Nigeria.
No, the visa. I'm talking about visas. Anxiety among Nigerians.
Yes.
Applicants.
Anxiety will there. America is the first destination of every other country, so to speak. But you see, the whims and caprices of President Trump, you have to learn to build them into your system so you don't get unnecessarily hypertensive. I'm sure that within the next 1 month, you'll hear something that is a little more favorable. The man, somebody said, he drops down chaos and begins to try to make some kind of order, from it. I don't know whether that's true, but it's just something somebody said.
Yeah, somebody said. And we're glad the train service is back.
Oh, sure. They are having the resumption, yes. I think today or...
Yesterday, first Independence Day.
I like the quick return. That means that the malfunction that occasioned the derailment, thank God nobody died, has been rectified, fixed. Let us show. We might not have an ambulance reach a patient within 10 minutes. We're not in the UK or US, but we can show that promptness can be reasonably built into our system of running things.
Exactly.
It's very important.
But that also calls for, making plans to have an alternative track so that when one has an issue, it doesn't shut down the route. You could just switch while you fix, and then it opens up that access. It makes it, you could move more people. I don't know. I'm just thinking.
Engineer Victor, I'm almost believing him, But please, you have a very valid point, Victor.
Yeah.
Let's not play it down,
Exactly.
That's a very good one. Alternatives always broaden the life and make it sweeter. Broaden one's life and make it sweeter. So the more we have alternatives, whether it's in energy or sector or whatever, wherever it is, the better for us. Livelihoods are more assured in terms of buoyancy, And
in Kano, the governor is demanding the police commissioner's removal.
You know what, I saw that story,
what?
and they tell you that the governor is the #1 security.
That was exactly what he said, actually, in his speech.
Well, he can't redeploy a commissioner. He's asking, so it's almost tongue-in-cheek when you say that the governor is the chief security officer of his state.
Because he didn't attend Independence Day.
Well, I'm not even interested so much in what caused it. I am saying, is the governor really the chief security officer of his state if he has to ask for the redeployment of the, But I'm sure that when
that's why they are,
advocating
for state police so
comes,
that they can have more control.
the Fintiri is against it. I read some bit about it.
State police.
Yes, I think so.
Of course, it has always
some governors
divided.
are not down with it.
It has always divided opinion.
No, of course,
some
yes.
governors are not.
There's many opinions as there are people in this country. There's one pastor said. This church, if you have 3, let me not name the particular denomination. If you have 3 of them, you have 12 different opinions. So each person has 4. Some societies are like that, That's it.
On that laughing note, we'll jejely tell you.
I think he's earned himself a cup of coffee.
Yes, a cup of coffee.
Please go get one. I'll tell the producer to make one available.
Is that not yours?
Mr. Chooks.
Your work is done. Have a great day.
He's speaking fraudulently.
So we'll take a break now.
Guys.
When we return, our conversation on Nigeria-China bilateral engagement will begin. Don't go away.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, with undying demand. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Ethnicity is unique, we are more than just a nation.
We are Nigeria, strengthening unity. We know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Have you been aspiring to be a student of the prestigious Ahmadu Bello University Zaria to no avail? Worry no more, as you can gain entry through NTA Television College Jos, an affiliate of the renowned Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, where eligible candidates with a JAMB admissible scores of not less than 180 and 100 scores, and with 5 credits O-level in social sciences, including English and mathematics, can turn their passion in broadcasting to profession by applying for a BSc in Mass Communication and MBTE approved innovation diploma courses in film and television production, broadcast journalism and television engineering respectively. The college, as a training hub with a pedigree of professionalism in the media space, also offers specialized courses in other related fields. For more information, visit our website at www.ntatvc.edu.ng or contact 08033 834-343 and 080-69-809-897. Announcer Management.
Welcome your host, Bisola Ayola.
All the way from Akwa Ibom State, it's the sensational family. And all the way from Benue State, it's the TWC family.
My name is Christiana. I'm a fashion designer.
My name is Christiana. I'm a fashion designer. You are into Asia. You are into catering. You are into another thing. I sing. You sing as well. Oh my God. Grace, take it away.
All around the world, no one looks like you. You can put a smile on your face. You're beautiful. For the Spirit of the Lord lives and dwells in you.
Mention a common response if your situationship should ask you, what are we?
We're just friends. One item. We're like a sister to me.
Nothing.
Lovers. We are who we are.
We are who we are. Survey says.
On October 1st, 1960, a new nation was born. Nigeria stood tall, raising her green and white banner of unity, hope, and freedom. From the early struggles of nationhood, through moments of triumph, challenges, and resilience, the Nigerian Television Authority has been there, telling our stories, preserving our history, shaping our voices, and bringing Nigerians together across every region, every home. The laughter, the tears, the milestones, and the dreams. As Nigeria celebrates 65 years of independence, we at NTA remain proud to be part of this remarkable story. Nigeria's journey is our story, and the story continues. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria.
Welcome back and you're watching Good Morning Nigeria. And to set the tone for our conversation which borders on Nigeria-China bilateral cooperation, let's take this background report put together by Ibrahim and Hamidu.
China and Nigeria may be thousands of miles apart, but they share a strong symbolic link. October 1. In 1949, Mao Zedong declared the People's Republic of China. 11 years later, on October 1, 1960, Nigeria gained independence. Two nations, two rebirths, and a long history of diplomacy, trade, and technical cooperation. Today, China is among Nigeria's largest trading partners, investing in rails, roads, ports, energy projects, and telecoms. We see Chinese engineered railways, port cranes, and infrastructure that move goods and people. Educational exchanges, scholarships, and business ties also thread the relationship beyond contracts into communities. But the partnership has its own challenges, like loan terms, trade imbalances, local job creation, and the need for value-added industrialization raise legitimate questions. Is Nigeria negotiating from strength? Are we turning projects into sustainable jobs, technology transfer, and domestic industry growth, or merely importing assembled goods? There are lessons to learn. China's rise followed long years of domestic reform, industrial policy, and a focus on local value. Cooperation only delivers when foreign partnerships are matched with strong domestic policy, transparent contracts, and robust oversight. Harnessed well, this bilateral tie can power Nigeria's industrialization, boost exports, and upgrade infrastructure. But it requires better negotiation, greater transparency, and intentional policies to ensure the partnership strengthens governance and delivers real impact for Nigerians. Today on Good Morning Nigeria, guests and experts on Nigeria-China bilateral cooperation, as well as trade negotiators, policy analysts, economic diplomats, and academics will discuss how this relationship can move from handshakes to highlighted outcomes: jobs, local industry, transparency, and a stronger Nigeria.
Many thanks, Ibrahim Hamidu, for that background report. Now, joining us in the studio to discuss Nigeria-China bilateral cooperation, let me welcome Professor Sharif Ghali Ibrahim, who is Director, International Center, University of Abuja, as well as Head of Contemporary China-Africa Research in Nigeria. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, we've also been joined by Charles Ononuju, Director, Center for China Studies here in Abuja, Nigeria. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Nigeria.
And we also have joining us from China via Zoom, John Chu, CGTN commentator, is also a fellow of Belt and Road Research Center, Minzhou University, Beijing, China. You're becoming quite regular on Good Morning Nigeria. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, let me stay with John Chu, given the clarity and the very sharp signal that we're getting from you. What's your assessment of Nigeria-China relations, and how has it grown over the years, in your opinion?
Well, I think over the so many years of the cooperation and the partnership with each other, China and Nigeria has been going for a long way. Economically, I think we have established together a lot of infrastructures. Like the railway, we see the Abuja to Kaduna, and also the Lagos to Ibadan. And also we see the port, like the Lekki deep water port, and also we see all kinds of the aircraft, field, and also the light rail and the metros in the cities, and also that being established in Nigeria. And also, I think energy and the powers, we have so many energy and power projects going on, like Mambila hydro stations, and also talking about the latest wind power, and also the solar powers, and all this renewable energy corporations has been going on a lot. And also talking about some other areas we both paid a lot of attention to, which is agriculture, modernized agriculture we're talking about, for example, like the peanut industry, and also talking about manufacturing. We know that Nigeria wants its own modernization and the smart manufacturing. And so we have established lots of industrial parks, like the Lekki Free Trade Zone. And also talking about digitalization, we have the satellite systems, we have the smart city program working with each other. And this is just about infrastructures and the economy we're talking about. And even in the political arena, I think in China and Nigeria has been a good partner. We always echo with each other in the United Nations, and also in lots of the trade issues in WTO. And all that, I think, has been not only been helping both of our countries, but also by representing both of our continent, both of Africa and Asia, and also representing all the global South nations. We've been doing a lot of things. So I think this is actually one of the greatest example of the win-win and win example.
Thank you so much, Mr. John, for your opening comment here. Let me bring in Professor Ghali into this conversation. Good morning. It's good to see you again. We all know that Nigeria-China bilateral cooperation is one of the most dynamic partnerships in Africa today, covering, trade, infrastructure, energy, technology, and diplomatic support, like Mr. John mentioned. But it also comes with some significant risks, which has, raised a lot of eyebrows. The cooperation is good, but some Nigerians are saying, are we going too far?
No, you see, the relationship between China and Nigeria, as my brother from China rightly mentioned, is of mutual benefit, not only with China, Nigeria, China, Africa, entirely. And, some people are very skeptical, about China-Africa relationship, just like the formation of the European Union. Britain, for example, was very skeptical. It refused to ratify the Treaty of Rome. So, but in Nigeria and the entire continent of Africa, we come to understand that among all stronger and bigger partners with Africa, China is better. Why? Because the Treaty of Westphalia, the Peace of Westphalia, established 1648, guaranteed equal sovereignty of state. So that alone, if you relate with a state, that particular equal sovereignty and respect to the sovereignty of your partner, that comes first. That actually lays the playing ground for a kind of harmonious relationship. So apart from this, when we started in 1971, remember to actually pay that courtesy and respect to Nigeria. President Hu Jintao came to Nigeria 2004, 2006. And he had raised a joint session of the National Assembly and succeeded in signing an MOU with Nigeria. And what was that about? It was all about strategic partnership between China and Nigeria. And that strategic partnership, of course, between the government, the head of government of Nigeria and China, between our foreign ministries, dealing with trade, dealing with culture, dealing with our, high commissions or embassies, in both China and Nigeria. And that is why we have our, embassy in Beijing. China also established its embassy in Beijing. We also established a kind of a consulate in Guangzhou, as well as Shanghai. So also China established a consulate, a kind of economic consulate in Lagos. So the relationship politically has been bilaterally mutual and beneficial. And that is why last year, in 2005, President Xi Jinping invited President Ahmed Bola Tinubu to come to Beijing on the 3rd of September 2024. And when he was there, President Xi Jinping intimately discussed with President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, looking at the successes as well as the leadership style of Nigeria, especially in the region. President Xi Jinping identified that and recognized that, as well as try to promote China-Nigeria's relationship into a comprehensive strategic partnership. Remember, 2004-2006, it was a strategic partnership. But just last year, 2024, comprehensive strategic partnership, as well as call on President Ahmed Bola Tinubu to work together in order to govern effectively the developing entities. So it was a great recognition given to Nigeria politically by President Xi Jinping, inviting Nigeria being a stronger entity in the entire continent of Africa, as well as among developing nations. Let's work together. And that is why the recognition on comprehensive strategic partnership, this does not go to any other country. And they also emphasize on 4 basic areas.
Okay.
High-level mutual trust, that we're going to work together and we're going to have and maintain that particular high-level mutual trust between China and Nigeria bilaterally. Then apart from this, there is going to be high-level mutual development cooperation, because this is what we envisage. Development cooperation, which theoretically began in the aftermath of the Second World War, and President Xi Jinping is now consolidating that, for Africa to actually harness that particular opportunity, and specifically Nigeria with this particular recognition. Then thirdly, bilateral security mutual trust, because President Xi Jinping has been able to understand the major challenge of Africa and Nigeria. That particular high-level security mutual cooperation that will actually aid Nigeria in dealing with its security challenges. And finally, high-level mutual understanding, because we need to understand each other before we'll be able to build that particular trust. While building that particular trust, we continue to harness other developmental cooperation for our mutual benefit and development. So this is the foundation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Gali. Now let me get to Charles Ononuju. Now, critics of Nigeria-China relations will say that Nigeria often pursues transactional rather than strategic diplomatic relations. Would you say that Nigeria-China relations has transcended that?
Well, every relation can be tested by the practice of those directly involved, especially in the case of Nigeria and China. I wouldn't suggest transactional responses to China. Of course, there is a need to sharpen more policy focus, to be more policy nuanced in dealing with China, and also seeing the big picture. Instead of seeing what happens today and the next day, you have to look at the big picture, and that is where strategy comes in, beyond tenures of particular governments, but to draw a big picture that focuses on engaging. China is also a long-term player. China plays the long game. So if you want to fruitfully and productively engage China, you also must be ready to play the long game in the sense of outlining specifics, drawing a broad picture, but then engaging specifics, defining fundamentals, like in our own case now. China as a strategic partner should be very clear because it delivers on tangibles that are very, very important in contributing to our national aggregates. We have national priority, security, we have economic recovery, we have political stability, we have social cohesion. How does China engagement contribute to the specifics of each of these policy commitments or policy objectives of Nigeria? Of course, in the economic realm, Prof. and our friend from Beijing has concretely outlined issues involved in economic relations, which is very clear. I only want to add that there are so much we could do. You know, the China and Nigeria, in my view, are historic opportunities to themselves. But as I always warned, opportunities could linger forever. You need to leverage it and convert it to advantage. If you do not move, opportunity itself don't convert to advantage. And I believe that the opportunities of China relating to engaging those strategic things we need for nation building are very obvious, but we must deal with it in the long term. Yes, some critics are right in saying Nigeria sometime the issue of a transactional, get this and give this. No, that shouldn't be. If we understand clearly that China remains an important opportunity. As you may know, the game is the trading partner to over 150 countries in the world. You know, so China contributes to most countries balancing their budget, diversifying their economy. In our own case, we have that strategic need to diversify our economy. And China has provided opportunity. If you remember, just last June, at the 4th edition of China-Africa Trade and Economic Expo, the Chinese proposed lifting 100% tariff-free access, duty-free, of all products coming from Africa. No longer restricted to 33 poorest countries, but the entire continent, including Nigeria. That is an incredible low-hanging fruit if we want to take seriously the idea of diversifying our economy. And it has implications for national security. I can assure you, if the bandits in Zamfara, in Kaduna Forest, even in the southeast, realize they can become ginger billionaires, soya bean billionaires, sesame seeds billionaires, cashew millionaires, they will drop the gun. And it's possible within the context of our existing engagement with China. Their market is open, 1.4 billion.
It's a large market.
1.4 billion. If you can only get 2% of that market, you can imagine how game-changing it will be for your economy. So what do we do? Recently, I had some research. I learned that the Lebanese, the Arabs, are setting up mini processing plants in Kaduna to process ginger. Buy from the locals, process it, and sell to China. Why can't we process? Why can't we set up those secondary factories to process this and sell so that we can get added advantage and all the things that come with it? So these are low-hanging fruit.
It's all about political will.
Yes, it's not about.
So some Nigerians are saying, how transparent, are Nigeria-China agreements, and should the public have more access, to contract details?
Absolutely, I agree with you. These are some of the challenges. Nigeria, the opportunities are not even known to Nigerians. Because we have to step out of this glamour thing, sign agreements, sign memorandum, exchange big picture thing, and then it ends there. How do we communicate to critical stakeholders about the possibilities of this market? How do we provide for the logistics? How do we provide rural logistics? Because it matters. You have to lighten the burden for the farmers. You have to engage security issues. You have to help them with logistics, even finance, credit. These are things we also need transparency. We need this thing to be clear to people. People need to be communicated. At the Nigerian, China has organized Import Expo in Shanghai, World Import Expo, for almost 8 editions. On each occasion, Nigeria has been invited. Come and sell to the Chinese. We're bought enough. You've been buying from us. Now come and sell to us. The question is, what have been our performance on most of these expos? Who goes there? Is it civil servants? Or is it producers and manufacturers and stakeholders? These are the questions we ask. How are we engaging the opportunities of China? Because the truth now is not about, yes, road, infrastructure, rail, but there are ones that have direct impact on our national priority for economic diversification. Because that is the way to go.
I think there's a lot more we will talk about as the program progresses. Yeah. But now let me get to John Chu, who's joined us from China. And I'd like to ask, from where you stand, how important would you say Nigeria is to China in the Nigeria-China relations?
Oh, Nigeria is absolutely one of the most important trade partner, political partners, and also development partner to China. I think you sit in Lagos, you probably understand more of it. Nigeria is one of the largest economy in the whole African continent out of more than 50 countries. And also besides South Africa, I think Nigeria probably is the largest growing trade partners with China in the whole development of China and African relations. I don't need to mention that our political ties are so important. For example, in the United Nations, in the WTO, we always try to support each other with the multilateralism instead of unilateralism or bilateralism. I mean, some other developed nations are always using that to put some sanctions or influences on the global South nations. But China and Nigeria, representing both regions, refuse to do so. I think this is the most valuable things we see into each other, especially Nigeria and Africa to China. And also talking about the trade, Nigeria has the largest population in Africa, and it's been dominating not only for the regional economy, but also actually been influencing the whole agenda of Africa's development. Look, we have to be frank that lots of African countries, not only Western Africa we're talking about, I mean the whole African continent, they look into Nigeria. They are seeing Nigeria. Okay, what is Nigerians doing? What are they doing for the development? Nigeria has the National Development Plan for the 2063, and they probably have an idea about what they should do in their own national development, like the modernization, like the smart making, like the AI, like even the defense technologies. Well, I have some student used to, he's a Nigerian. He's now a serviceman in Nigeria Ministry of Defense. He's telling me that every nation are looking into Nigeria, what kind of weapon they're using, what kind of the route of the technology in the defense that they're trying to apply to. So Nigeria is an example. That's the reason why we're looking into Nigeria. For China, when we see Nigeria is so important, because once Nigeria see, okay, we're going this way in the next 50 years, and probably many nations in Africa will follow suit. They will adopt a similar strategy because of the region, similarities, because of the culture and everything. They probably will follow Nigeria model. I think this mutual truth in China as well. For example, when China developed so fast and proved an Asian country can also be very, very good and important in the international economy. I think lots of the nations surrounding China are learning as well. Vietnam, they learned a lot of experience from China. Myanmar, Laos, even Malaysian, Indonesian, they're also doing the same thing. So we believe we are both of the nation have the regional importance. And that's the reason why more than ever, we need to work with each other. And plus that, I think the complementary, the nature of both of our economy are very important. Nigeria is very famous for its raw materials. Nigeria is for you have very good agriculture product. You have the oil and the gases. You have the minerals. China is the largest manufacturing economy in the whole world. And you tell me how important these relations can be. And I think bonding with each other, we can only make both of our economy just better and larger. So I think no matter we're talking about the growth, the living standards of our people, and also when we're talking about the political ties and also regional influences, more than ever, we should work with each other. And also, I think this is what we call this win-win result. Just 101 of economics. That is, when one country is very good in one thing, another country is very good at the other thing. They should work with each other. It's 1 + 1 bigger than 2. Just think about, well, the availability and also the affordability of the Chinese products in Nigeria really are helping, and also in all over Africa, is helping to push down the inflation pressures in the past 3 or 5 years. This is very important. We see a lot of the nations, for example, in Congo, they do not get access to available and also affordable products internationally. So inflation is causing the turbulence in their country. But vice versa, on the other countries, like in Ethiopia, like in Tanzania, and also in Nigeria, the very stable price of the product are making the whole society very stable, and the people are, enjoying their life. And vice versa for China in the past several years. If you take a look at the very stable oil prices and gas prices, and I think we also attribute to our service providers, our trade partners like Nigeria's, help to bring down the whole cost for the whole global supply chain. So I think when we're working with each other, it's not only a great news for China and Nigeria, but also I think it's a great news for people in both China, in Asia, and also in Africa, and also the whole global supply chain will benefit from it.
And indeed, China is a big player, on the world scene. Thank you, Mr. Chu. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation. Now, let me bring in Professor Gali. He has talked about bonding. He has talked about, coming together on the same table to ensure Nigeria being the largest, the most populated, country in Africa, and China is, I think, the second most populated country in the world. Combining these powers together brings meaningful development for both nations. But we are an importer country. We import almost everything we need from China. What we export to China is oil. So beyond oil now, what opportunities exist for Nigeria to expand, exports to China?
Thank you, Jimmy, for this particular significant question, because that is actually my remark, which I wanted to actually, recommend. It's all about the issue of opportunity, and China has given us all those opportunities. Why? Because we shouldn't be blaming our partners. You don't even need to engage with China. You just observe China, you learn a lot. Observing China on its own is an opportunity for you to actually transform your country. You don't even need to engage with China. You travel to China, you return, you learn a lot. You observe China, you learn a lot. So what opportunities that China has not given to Africa and Nigeria? First opportunity, now we have become the second largest trading partner in Africa. This is one. Secondly, this year alone, China offered us 1 billion yuan in order to support our military, as well as in armed production, in order to secure our border, to deal with terrorism and banditry. This is two. Thirdly, as of 2019, more than 7,000 Nigerian students study in China. 512 are on scholarship. And that is the highest and largest number for Africa. I mean, in the entire continent of Africa, no country had that particular number of scholarships given by China to a country like Nigeria, 512, higher than any other country in Africa. Then apart from this, 6,000 military personnel in Africa to be trained, 1,000 police officers to be trained. All the opportunities are there. What Charles mentioned, tariff-free, export. What are you preparing to export? So now, the recommendation, the suggestion is for Nigeria to adopt the spirit of mercantilism. Mercantilism in the sense that we make sure that we import more. And how do we import more? We cannot import more without producing more. Now we have allowed everybody to be a miner. If Nigeria should only concentrate on mining alone, that will actually sustain Nigeria. That's what South Africa is on. That is what Ghana is on. But we've been spoiled and we've become a spoiled child by the quantum of oil that Nigeria is naturally endowed. If Mother Nature tomorrow seizes its oil, then that will be the time for Nigeria to begin to realize diversification. So when we have oil, we should also try to consider other sectors of the economy. China is exploring all sectors. Wherever you look at, is it manufacturing, is it agriculture?
Tourism.
Everything China is actually aggressively harnessing. So we don't rely and continue to be monocultural. Decades ago that we have been. Mining alone can sustain Nigeria. We don't allow everybody to come into Nigeria. The Chinese, the Arabs, everybody sees opportunity in Nigeria's mining because we have not been able to own our resources. This is part of what we are recommending. Charles, you remember in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam, we came up with the Dar es Salaam Declaration. How do we actually, all the China-Africa think tanks gathered in Tanzania, and the recommendation is that Nigeria and Africa, we need to own our resources. And how do we own our resources? We don't allow bandits and private individuals controlling Nigerian resources in Zamfara, in Katsina, in all other places. You see that the government has a little hand. It only gives out licenses, for people to continue to mine. So Ministry of Mines and Industry, what are we doing? We need to expand. We need to reform. We need to actually decentralize. This department in this particular ministries should actually go deeper into the abyss in making sure that Nigeria owns these particular resources that we claim to have. So if we do this, definitely we have a lot to give to China. Not only China, we have a lot to give to the world, and thereby having more national income coming into our country. So these are some of the ways. Then secondly, you see, the issue of industry, because we cannot become an advanced society, a developed nation, we cannot actually achieve what we want if we cannot produce. And it's only through production that we will be able to actually export more and more. China is open, for us. Every month, every 2 months, every year, China calls on African people coming for training, agriculturalists, professionals, defense sector. Now give China a significant number of students. Now we have the Nuban workshop at University of Abuja. Railway engineering has been introduced. We have people who have been trained in railway engineering. Same people, give them. Acquire skills, not only the theoretical aspect of seminars, which many of us attend. How do we industrially engage yourself? Go and learn. Dispatch at least even 1,000, students. If they go to China, they learn nothing other than different sectors of industry. Come back to Nigeria, start implementing. And that is going to be according to our resourcefulness. And what we have, what do we need to harness, what do we need to produce, because that must not be the same thing with what China has. It depends on our natural endowment. We train people into that particular sector. How do we bring out those particular resources? How do we process those particular resources? And how do we market those particular resources?
But beyond,
tourism.
Beyond trade, Prof, are we considering political influence, for instance, is Nigeria, in your thinking, outsourcing too much of our development thinking to China?
Well, development thinking, is all about the initiatives. These particular initiatives, we've not been seeing these particular initiatives come from Africa. We've not seen true political, economic, and harmonious initiatives coming from world leaders. The United Nations organization has become a mere tea party. The leaders gather there, everybody speaks, about his country and their foreign policy posture. But one man, only one man, President Xi Jinping of China, he proposes initiatives to the world and even for Africa. And recently, even at the Beijing summit of the FOCAC, he discussed this with President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, and it was part of the declaration. Bola Ahmed Tinubu emphasized that Nigeria is ever ready to support and promote the President Xi Jinping's initiatives. And what were those? The Global Development Initiative. How do we make development inclusive? Not only in Europe, not only in America, not only in Asia. President Xi Jinping is like he has just been an advocate for the third world nations. Global Development Initiative. How do we make development inclusive? Africans to actually get included. And Nigeria, for example, is part of this particular journey. Development Initiative, President Xi Jinping said that he supports Nigeria's path and journey to development, and China is ever ready to support that. Because the way and manner, the obstacles we need to actually break in order to advance might be relative, different from the needs and requirements, for another country. This is one. Global Security Initiative. He said that the world is actually being shaped by turbulence and violence. So therefore, the international system needs to come with a framework to securitize the international system. And if you look at the global system, who needs more security? Africa. Even in Africa, Nigeria were part of it. And President Ahmed Bola Tinubu says he's in support of that initiative, which was being enunciated by President Xi Jinping. The third one, Global Civilization Initiative, which some civilizations think that they are superior to other civilizations. But China says, look, we don't downgrade, we don't, despise, we don't relegate, we don't look down on anybody. That is why that particular equal sovereignty among states, the respect we have for Africa, equal respect. Let us actually have a parallel playground. So that is why he says that particular mutual learning among civilizations that President Xi Jinping pontified, we learn from each other, we respect each other, we appreciate each other's culture as well as way of life. And that is the way to go. Then recently, at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, President Xi Jinping enunciated the Global Governance Initiative. And that Global Governance Initiative is still emphasizing of what? Sovereign equality of state. Apart from that particular sovereign equality, respect to international rule of law. Apart from that, multilateralism. We work together as a collective force, not individualistic force. Apart from this, we uphold people-centered approach. We make sure that whatever we do at the international level, as well as at the domestic level, we make sure that we are advancing, we are developing the people. And it is high time to act in order to achieve all this. So that is the political arrangement.
Okay, talking about global power now, and I'm bringing Mr. Charles now, competition between China and the West. So tell us, how does Nigeria maintain a balanced foreign policy here?
Okay, I will quickly do some retroactive responses to this by the development issues my friend raised. I think in my view, we should own our development because China, one distinctive feature of China development, it is about China. It is a part defined by China's specific national condition and social reality. It issues from China's own understanding of its future. And China encourages people to seek their own path to development. They believe if you look inward, if you search very rigorously, if you think deeply, you can find a pact that is sustainable for you. And I believe that if we struggle to find our own path, defining our own institution, establishing our own framework from the circumstances and conditions of our reality, we will find a path that is very, very sustainable, that can carry us too far. That is the very important example of China. And China encourages people to do this. China encourages other countries. It offers its own experiences. It offers its own lessons. But at the same time, it does not ask people to go this way, to go that way. China insists that within you, you can find a path that is most suitable for you. If you exert yourself very profoundly, if you exert yourself, you can find a path. Now, on the issue of how Nigeria could navigate, yes, Nigeria has had a policy. For me, I keep saying, non-alignment is not neutrality. It's not neutrality. You could take stand on very important issues. And I believe Nigeria and China has a very important mechanism for engaging, for finding common ground, not imposing our views on each other. You have the Intergovernmental Committee, which has been in place for the past 2 years. Within the framework of the Intergovernmental Committee, there is dialogue. In fact, the entire process of China-African cooperation, Nigerian-China cooperation, is dialogue mechanism that engages both parties to talk, to find a common ground, through reach consensus, through consultation. So I think this is a very important mechanism for Nigeria and China to find a common ground. You can even disagree without quarreling. You can even have differences. You can harmonize the differences. So in the context of the current global order, China's position, like Prof has said, the latest initiative from China, and when China offers her initiative, it is a contribution of our wisdom to the resolution of critical issues of our current time. They are not impositions. They are supposed to be engaged, discussed by the world, shaped, owned by the world. China, in my view, do not intend to run the world. Intends to be part of the world, making meaningful contribution. China defines its status as a major power, not by claiming privileges and entitlements, but by discharging more responsibilities to the world. It believes it can make more contribution, and it has been doing that by contributing its wisdom to understanding some of important global issues and offering solutions, offering its own insight and perspective, and asking the rest of the world, see what I am putting down, shape it, own it, so that we can have a better world. So in this context, China has been in the forefront of championing multilateralism. Like you know, as soon as the proposal for governance initiative was made, Nigeria was one of the first countries to endorse it, to say, look, this aligns with our vision of multilateralism. It aligns with our vision of a multipolar world order, where everybody is a stakeholder, where all voices must be heard. It aligns with our vision to reform key global institutions so that it becomes more representative of voices, especially from the global south. Nigeria was very effusive in engaging this process, not because China proposed it, but because it aligns with our own interest. So I think on the global issue, we can find China and Nigeria on common ground, not because one is hectoring the other to follow suit, but because the two find a synergy. It meets our vision of a global order that is inclusive. It meets our vision of a governance mechanism and global institution that reflect the existing reality of countries that have come of age. So in my view, of course, the United States has, for whatever reason, has distinguished itself for going alone, has distinguished itself for throwing weight around. For many years, countries around the world have spent time, resources studying United States. My understanding is United States is largely illiterate of the world. They still believe that the world is what is existing in their head. The world reality has gone beyond how the United States sees it. My own position, America should reform, is a very important country. that has a role to play in the world. It's an indispensable power. It is, but it does not have what it calls a special position. What is important is for Nigeria to continuously engage the United States. As you may know, let me just remind you, just yesterday, 2 days ago, AGOA elapsed. Africa looked up hopelessly to see the renegotiation of AGOA. 25 years, in 2000, AGOA ended. And there was no effort to renew it. And what was the position from China? China, instead of tariff, has completely knocked down the tariff walls and said, Africa, come over, trade with me. My market is open to you. America is erecting tariff. China is dismantling tariffs. So it's not about China hectoring us. It's about China aligning, or China's position being aligned to us, or we aligning to China based on our interest.
But in all of this, how has China's engagement helped improve Nigeria's capacity for industrialization?
Well, it is numerous. Like you could see, a whole range of discussions around China's contribution to industrialization.
Because not just import consumption.
No. For sure. China has established free trade. China has helped us establish special zones. But the challenge we have is we must improve these zones. You know, so if you go to Barrow Port in Niger State, where China helped to build the port, no access road. Since 2018, when it was constructed, you know, it's simply there. Rodents seem to have taken over. What could the Chinese do? Look at, if you go to Ogun State processing zone, a whole range of industrial activities is taking place. We have a corporation in China called Industrial and Production Capacity Corporation, in which we can engage each other and seamlessly transfer technology. Over 1,000, nearly 500, about 100 and something Chinese companies are in this country operating. And you have Nigerians as several cadres of their management. These are very important areas we can continuously engage. Like I've just told you, China would want our agricultural products to be sent to China. It is the Arabs that are processing these raw materials. Why can't we do that? We can establish light industry in Benue to process yam. We can establish light industry in Borno State to process tomato and onions. We can establish light industry to produce cashew in the southeast, palm nuts in the southeast. We are not doing this. If we do this, we add value to this material, and we have a ready-made market, a market that is guaranteed, a market that you don't wake up the next day and find its leadership saying, no, I'm giving you 20% tariff. You have reliability, policy reliability. You have stability in policy. You have stability in environment. What more do we need? We can respond a lot more proactively. And let me tell you, one very danger I see, or one problem I see in China, in Nigerian response to China, is what I call bifurcation of responses. You have bureaucrats, government people, closet with the policy initiatives that should be thrown open out there, that should mobilize and get people see the policy, this thing. Then you have traders, businesses, all acting autonomously. There is no synergy. Let people understand China policy. Let it be in the open. Let us put it in the open. We, academics, scholars, we discuss it. Traders trade. Government people sit in the closet with these policy issues, this policy option, this policy initiative, without integrating it to the practice of people in the field. That is the challenge. We should do that. We should
break
break the
we are
wall.
not taking enough advantage.
Absolutely. That is the reason why.
All right.
Let's talk our viewers should be sending in.
Yes. We expect your contributions, messages, questions on the subject of Nigeria-China relations, and we'll be happy to take them. Keep them concise with your names, where you are writing in from, and we'll read. Thank you very much. But let's get quickly to John Chu, who's joined us from China. Now, some have argued that China has a better poverty reduction model. What would you say that in this regard, Nigeria could learn from China?
Well, I think Nigeria can actually do a lot of things. Well, I don't think Nigeria need to learn from China because China is a very different place with different culture, different people. Nigeria has its own reality and its own culture, its own strengths. I don't think it's a learning partnership, but more like a mutual respect and a win-win partnership. Well, in China, we have one thing to say, that is, every nation have its own reality. For example, China believes in Marxism, but even when Marxism has been introduced in China, we find out that Marxism has a lot of problems, did not fitting Chinese reality. That's the reason why we have Chairman Mao, we have President Xi Jinping, we have Mr. Deng Xiaoping, to reformed the Marxism to fit, adapt to the reality of China. And I think Chinese experience of development probably can be called successful, but I'm not sure whether it can fit every earth, every corner on the earth, for us. Probably Nigeria will have its own, experience into reality. They need to, flexibly use Chinese experiences. So let's call it learn from it, but also watch out for it. And I think we have lots of things to do with each other in the future between China and Nigeria. For example, like one thing is that, always pay attention to, the nurturing of the human resources. Well, when the first time the China has been opening up itself at the end of the 1970s or the early of the 1980s, there are a lot of voices inside of the government and also inside of our society. They're saying, watch out for those Westerners, watch out for those investors. They just want to take advantage of our raw materials and the cheap labors. So they earn a lot of money and go away. So, people try to, boycott this kind of opening up policies in China initiated by Mr. Deng Xiaoping. But Mr. Deng Xiaoping very wisely are saying that, no, it's not like that. For sure, yes. When they invested in us, they built a factory and they make t-shirts, make sneakers. Well, a t-shirt sold in America was $20. But in China, we only earn $2. So which makes $18 profit goes to America. So yes, it looks like we are losing on it, but actually not. The reason why is that before American investors, before Japanese investors come to China, we do not even know how to run a modernized, factory, how to use assembly line, how to control the sophisticated machines, and letting alone we do not have the managers, we do not have the financial investors to control those capitals, to manage all these trades, to deal with international partners in the legal frameworks, on technologies. So we do not have any talents and human resources to actually undertake this long-term vision of Chinese development. Even though in the short term, they probably will earn some profit, but they will help us to train our human resources. And later it turns out Mr. Deng Xiaoping is 100% correct, because all those talents been trained in the early 18s and also in the early 19s, it turns out to be the business leaders and the government leaders of all over China. Well, President Xi Jinping is absolutely one of this, talents nurtured in the 80s and 90s. And also, you'd probably heard the name of Xiaomi, of the Apple, of the Oppo and the Vivo. You heard the name of Huawei, and the leaders and the boss of Xiaomi, Huawei, and Oppo, Vivo. They are also the talents nurtured from the 80s and the 90s opening up. So I think this human resources are really, really important. And this is the number one most important lesson or experiences we have learned as Chinese. And the number two, I think another good experience we have is that there are always yin and yang of investment and growth from outside. Well, you cannot expect all the kind of investment that can be 100% good for one nation. You have to accept there are yin and yang, which is Chinese philosophy, happening in one thing. Well, China realized that, but we decided if the yang, or the positive things, is larger than the yin, the negative things, and it was a shot. So probably you do not even believe it. Can you guess who is the first batch of investors to go to China to lay down the investment and factories in the early 18s or at the end of the 70s? it's America, it's Japan. And they truly brought China a lot of the great experiences and helped China to grow, through all these years. And we appreciated those good experiences, even though we have a lot of disagreement on many fronts, but still, accept yin and yangs are always very important. And the third thing is that, always looking into the long-term vision and to try to balance your short-term gain and long-term vision. China always, try to understand that effect of the long-term vision. For example, we try to balance the green development with our, modernization. A lot of the nations, they probably jeopardize their environment, their pollutions, when they try to, gain the short-term development, of the manufacturing. But China, when they try to do so, they try to, on one hand, develop the manufacturing industry, but on the other hand, we try to use green technologies to develop our own renewable energies so we can balance the trade-off. There always a trade-off between all kinds of the development. I think this is also one of the good experience and lessons we have to learn about it. Look, China is not always such a smart country to know about this kind of the balance. We have learned our serious lessons. For example, we used to have villages seriously polluted from all this kind of the chemicals. We have people, we have children suffered from leukemia, suffering from all kinds of the shortcomings. And then we realized, no, we cannot just look at the short-term gain. We need to value the long-term visions. We need to be sustainable in all kinds of the things. And also the fourth, experience we have is that you need international partners, but also you need to focus on your own self-sufficiencies and the independence on technology. Because once you can translate your technology into your own reality, and then you can have a stronger and more sustainable development. We used to have American technologies in China, but sometimes they're charging too much or they're not fitting local people's need. That's the reason why we developed our own version of smartphone, our own version of vehicles like the EV in China right now is kind of famous. But before we have it, we use a lot of Japanese and German and American cars. Until one day we find in China, the oil can be too expensive and eating away our foreign reserve. And then we decided we should have EV technologies. So I think this is kind of a learning curve. We have paid our tuitions on it, but after we learned that, we see this is really valuable. So I think maybe there's one thing that China, has something with Nigeria to learn from is that we do go through this kind of a learning curve, just one step ahead of Nigeria. So we actually used to, step into a lot of the booby traps. We used to learn bloody lessons from it. So our sincere wish is that we have learned it. So please do not repeat those mistakes we have used to done. So I think this is something, if it works and be helpful, I would like to share with all my, dear friends in here.
Quite interesting. We have questions that are coming in from our viewers now. Let me take two of them before we go on the break so that our guests will respond when we come back. And Farouk Musa from Benin Kebbi said, China is Nigeria's biggest trading partner today, but our imports are far higher than exports. How do we balance this relationship so Nigeria doesn't just remain a buyer but also a seller? And somebody from Abuja, didn't put a name, said Abuja in Abuja. Some see China as a friend, others as a competitor, quietly buying influence in Africa. How should Nigeria position itself in this global power game? That's from Abuja in Abuja.
All right, I think I can take the two that I have before we proceed on this break. Good morning. This one reads, what's the main concept of China's engagement with Nigeria or in Nigeria? It says it's Theophilus Hosea from Bauchi State, Nigeria. And second, some say Chinese loans come with hidden strings. Others say there are opportunities Nigeria must not miss. Where is the truth? That's from Faith from Lagos. So we'll pause here for this break. When we return, we'll take responses from our guests on some of these reactions. Please don't go away.
The business environment, to be honest with you, has been extremely hard on most Nigerian women's businesses, and of course harsh for a number of reasons. There is no way you would increase or move a subsidy and increase the price of fuel that it doesn't have the counter effect. It has been very challenging for so many women. I know that a lot of them have cried in one way or the other to us to find ways of intervening, but that is not to say that it is all doom and gloom. We will still have a few percentage of women that are thriving in this economy, but we hope that we'll be able to get a larger percentage. One of the things I've seen with even our local purchases now is that people are buying more made in Nigerian options of food, of clothing, and so on and so forth than the imported. So that again is helping some of our industries thrive. Surprisingly, the telecommunications is still doing well, and the reason is very simple. A lot of people are going for online options of skills in terms of training, communications, even remote working. And so you will see that people that provide services around those areas also thrive. But I think at the end of the day, it's about partnerships, collaboration, and influencing power from especially the private sector and even the public sector. But we really need the public sector to drive a number of things, especially policies, because the public sector has the national spread above even whatever we can do in our own small way. What has happened over the years is that even the government, for example, is being pulled from different angles by all these stakeholders. We need to harness ourselves to have strategic focus areas, and we should all be moving in the same direction, not using a competitive approach, but a collaborative approach. Secondly, in collaboration, we need to move with large clusters of decision makers. Instead of, the process of reaching out to individuals is painstakingly long and it takes time. And so we need to engage these stakeholders on a larger platform. I think it's very important to identify where you can get help in your own little way. And one of the things I've realized is that when you operate in silo, it is difficult for you to lift yourself out of the situation. Identify ways you can do what you are doing in a simpler way. And if what you are doing is no more profitable, why not find out what can you do in the meantime that will help you? You need to think outside the box and then connect. What you can do is also identify people and become a cluster to provide a service that ordinarily you cannot do alone.
Many thanks for staying with us. Just before we went on break, we took some messages from our viewers, and we'd like to take the responses. We'll get to John Chu, but let's begin with Prof. If you may respond to one of the messages or two.
Yes, I would like to respond to two messages there. But before that, there is one, idea that I have. Of all this issue of, mutual learning. We always argue that we share so many characteristics of People's Republic of China. Population-wise, largest economy, in Asia, second largest in the world, while Nigeria also from largest economy, probably to second. Then apart from this, in terms of population, and we also have a strong bilateral ties. Then this argument that we deepen our economic development based on our national realities. Yes, we agree. But again, Socrates once said that he has never seen someone so ignorant that he could not learn something from. So definitely, even my friend from China said that they were making use of Japanese car, American cars, and they learned a lot from other people. So definitely, there are many things to learn from China if we share so many characteristics together. We agree to actually fixate that on our national realities. I give you an example. All the provinces of China, they are competing to develop. If you see the way Amana, Hangzhou, Zhejiang province, competing with other maybe Guangzhou, Shenzhen and other cities, it is massive. Then this apart, China has actually taxed major cities and provinces to aid in the development and growth of other cities. For example, Lagos. What is wrong if Lagos ate, for example, maybe Oyo or Oshun or Ekiti in their own path to modernization and development? What is wrong if Kano touches Jigawa State? And what is wrong if Sokoto touches Kebbi or Zamfara State? All these are the ways to galvanize all stakeholders in order to advance the society. We don't look ourselves as rivals because that particular policy of national rejuvenation, President Xi Jinping has given it a holistic approach. How do we, in all ramifications, achieve that particular socialist, modern, and prosperous China? That has been the dream. We achieve national rejuvenation, we achieve socialist, modern state of China. So in Nigeria, for example, we have so many cases. For example, a councillor's vision is how does he return next? A chairman's vision is after 4 years, how do I come back? So all his efforts are being geared towards my return. Not really the target population. And that is the question of President Xi Jinping. He always says, Renmin Fajan or Renmin the Fajan. That is people's development, human development. How do you achieve that? Is when you develop and promote the people, not your personal interest. At the national level, what do? We start campaigning anytime, even when it is not even time. We start mobilizing to return to political power. So the vision, the change, the transformation we need to have first is not we coming back to power. It's how do we move the nation, that particular national dream. And that is why somebody made mention of concept. That particular concept is mutual learning, mutual development, mutual security. Even at the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, common security, that's what President Xi Jinping called it. That's the Beijing Declaration. So that common security, that is the question, common development. So that is why I see Nigeria sending out Nigeria's industrial and technical spies. Go out there, buy drones. That is why if China buys drones from Iran, it actually pieces this particular drone, disintegrate it, then to learn or even improve it. So what have we bought in order to learn from it? Is it technology? Is it a kind of computer gadget? What is our intention in advancing in modifying that particular gadget? We need to learn. We buy. We have this particular technological and industrial soldiers. But first of all, we have to develop a vision. If we have that particular vision, we strategize in achieving that particular vision. We have these people who learn and implement and improve the existing one we have in our country. So this is another issue. Then the second question which someone asked was, okay, I have actually addressed the concept.
Yeah, you've addressed concepts. Another one talked about, Chinese loans coming with hidden strings.
No, China's loan is the best loan you can ever have in the world. Why? Because it has less interest, and it also has moratorium. Because if you are not able to pay, for example, in 5 or 6 or 10 years, you are having more additional years. And sometimes these particular loans are not even in cash. It's infrastructure development. We build it for you. Getting to a specific time given, then we hand over this particular project to you. Because development projects, sometimes you do not have that particular, the capital to fund such particular project. So China intervenes in order to provide such infrastructure and gives you the infrastructure after a certain or a particular period of time. So that is why mutual learning is indispensable.
All right. And what more message came in, Charles Odoju, is that why don't we incorporate the discipline China has on corruption And that came from Orwell Nwachukwu in Lagos.
Yes, another one, Kunle Adeyemi in Abuja said, people say Nigerians love Chinese products so much that even our weddings sometimes feel like made in China. But beyond the jokes, he said, how do we make Nigeria itself is not imported but actually exporting value in this relationship and this partnership we have with China?
Yes, on the issue of what we can take to China, I think we have spoken
Yes.
quite elaborately on that and say, look, we have concessional market access, with a speedy, the Chinese promise, with speedy custom and quarantine processing to give us access to the huge market. And like I said, recently we have the China African Trade and Economic Expo, the 4th edition. This year alone, the deal signed at that place was almost worth $20 billion US, African countries. It's strictly Africa. Come and showcase what you have. And African countries went there in droves. Kenya is exporting mangoes. Zambia is exporting meat. South Africa is exporting spice. Rwanda is exporting spice. Ethiopia is exporting coffee. And Ghana, sesame seed and soya bean. And these are things we have here. So that's why we say our leadership, people who are custodians, who know this policy, should move out of their comfort zone, through chambers of commerce. There are organized private sector that could play that could get into these opportunities. And then you could also support stakeholders with what is needed, providing them access roads to providing them infrastructure connectivity in the village, in the communities. We can do this, rural infrastructure. These are what the Chinese are doing, rural infrastructure. Just like a few days ago, China commissioned the highest bridge in the world, the tallest bridge in the world. You know where it is built? In Guizhou. Guizhou was one of the last provinces that exited poverty. But China understood that infrastructure, especially rural one, has a role to play in exiting poverty. Therefore, we should build infrastructure. People can trade themselves out of poverty. People can produce themselves out of poverty. Instead of peanuts, instead of handout. I am thinking if 330 billion naira that was allegedly spent in giving out handout is used to establish rural infrastructure, I assure you, people can get their goods from the farm to the market more easily. They'll be making more than 25,000 naira a month. They'll be making more than 75,000 naira a month. So if we have spent 330 billion naira on rural infrastructure to enhance connectivity, connecting the farms to the local market, I assure you, we will be making, people in the villages will be making more than 100,000 naira a month.
The Barrow Port is a good example. Access road is what's the problem.
What is that?
Barrow Port.
Yeah, Barrow Port, like you have seen, built with over 3 billion. And today is choked because no access road. The infrastructure has collapsed. It's been taken over by rodents, completely rodents taking it over. It's completely languishing. So we can do so much and engage the opportunity of China. I keep saying China is a historic opportunity because in our history of China, African partnership, we've really had a partner that is both willing and able. We've had those who are willing but not able. We've had those who are able but not willing. In China, we find a partner that is both willing and able. And
Someone
we can
mention corruption. Sorry, Charles. Someone mentioned corruption. What can we learn, in that
from
particular
China's
fight
style of
against corruption? Recently, I think 2 or 3 days ago, a former governor of Gansu province was arrested and arraigned in a court of law in China. Just what I see done, and Minister of Agriculture, former governor and Minister of Agriculture, arrested, arraigned in the court, and if convicted, he could face capital punishment. But there was a kind of clause that could allow him to actually exit the capital punishment to life in prison. Who in Nigeria as a governor or minister will have such conviction? We once had that case with Ibori, even Ibori in UK. So we must learn how to, because President Xi Jinping has discovered that to actually make the society healthy is when we are able to actually reduce corruption, because that is what has been able to kill us. Then somebody made mention of how do we harness all other potentials. We need to go into services. We have not even beaten agriculture. The traditional mode of production, we have not beaten that, not to think of going into services. That is why President has been suggested for agricultural modernization. Services, for example. Malawi. A country like Malawi has an airline. Rwanda. Kenya.
Ethiopia.
Ethiopia is a giant in that particular. Yes. We're talking of Egypt. Rwanda. Look at a small country like Rwanda. Look at even Uganda. Uganda. Look at Cote d'Ivoire. Look at even Togo here. But I call ourselves. I think we need to. I
guess Nigeria is in the making. But let me get to John Chu. A message came in and it was talking about solid minerals export from Nigeria to China. Please, what platform do we contact to establish a minerals trading relationship? This is just one. You may choose to respond to other questions.
Well, also myself, I have something to respond to those questions. I think our number one is about, our previous audience has just mentioned about the trade deficit and also the debt issues. Well, I think that is actually a very simple question to answer. Number one is, if somebody try to lend me the money within 1 year with 30% of interest rate, I will call him a loan shark. But if someone will lend me the money over 30 years under the rate will be under 3%, I probably will call him my best friend. Just to go to any neighbors, go to any relatives, go to every bank, commercial banks around your home. You go to ask them, lend me the money for 30 years with 2% of the interest rate. See whether they will answer you, will agree with you or not. Probably they will call you crazy. Okay? So I think the role of the long-term debt is very, very important. It helps every country to grow. And this kind of the debt is very, very important for the global South nations to develop in the first place. The only difference is how you use this debt. When you borrow this money, where do you use it? We have several examples in Asia as well. For example, there is a country called Japan, and also there's another country called South Korea. They borrowed lots of debt from the United States after the Second World War. But I think these two nations are very, very smart. And they use that kind of money borrowed from the United States into their infrastructures, into their higher educations, into their technology development, into their agriculture development. And later, you probably all know that South Korea and Japan are the two most influential and developed nations in the whole world, not only in Asia. And China actually learned from their experiences. We actually learned when we tried to open up. We borrowed a lot of the money from Japan, from America, from Singapore as well. You see, there's a very interesting story. Actually, back in the 1960s and 1970s, the leadership in China are very proud of one thing. They say, we owe nobody nothing. We do not have domestic debt. We do not even have foreign debt. Nothing. We owe nobody nothing. And they'd be very proud of it. But the result you see is that back in the 1960s and 1970s, China was really, really poor. And people, cannot buy things and people feel hungry. But after 1980s, the father of Chinese opening up, that is Deng Xiaoping, Mr. Deng Xiaoping said, we need to borrow debt. And long-term debt, we have to use it wisely. And that is the reason why we borrow debt from Japan, from America, from Singapore, and even, the part of China, which is Hong Kong, which in 1980s is still not part of China. So we borrowed a lot of money. We follow suit, like Japan, like South Korea. We invest them into infrastructures and everything. And now you see the result. China is developing well. But also there are bad examples. Well, I'm not saying it's wrong, but probably it's not ending up very well. It's like in Myanmar and also in Philippines. Philippines used to be the second largest economy in the whole Asia, only next to Japan back in the 1960s. And they also have lots of the money borrowed from the United States after Second World War and after Korean War. And then they used to have really good development. But like our friend, Professor just mentioned, corruption hasn't happened. people are not using the money to benefit their people, to put them on the highway, airport, development of technology. But the former Filipino leaders just corrupted all the money, and the big families taking the money away, and the people are, fell into this trap of the poverty. So you see, the problem's not about the debt, but about how you use the debt, and also about the trade deficit. China also used to face a lot of the trade deficit against the United States. Just like we mentioned, a $20 t-shirt, China only earned $2, and $18 goes to United States. So you see how much of the trade deficit we have. But Mr. Deng Xiaoping said, okay, you want to see money? I can give you money. I will give you $1 million paper notes, put in your room, and you watch them every day and see what kind of benefit you will get from watching those money in the room, right? It's just a paper. The thing is that how do you use this money, and how do you train your talents through this trade, no matter it's trade deficit or trade surplus? But you need to trade first. If this game is important, if you consider how you're going to win or lose first several times, then it will do you no well. It will do you nothing. You have to play the game first, train your people in the game. That's the most important thing. And China used to do that. We have, experienced that learning curve. So I think this is important for all the global South nations if they want to catch up. And secondly, how Nigeria is going to, benefit more from this bilateral and also multilateral trade through, China and Nigeria relations, and also through this network of trade in all the global South nations. I think number one, Nigeria is a very enriched nation, really well endowed with such a great population, so many, talents, great human resources. You have vast land, you have great raw materials. And I think that itself can be called a great wealth. And I think plus that, Nigeria have really good education system in all over Africa. Look, we have many students from Nigeria and China. They prove themselves to be the smartest students, second to none. And they've been starting their, startups in China. And also they want to create their own technology startups back in Nigeria. And if you want to get rich, well, it's not of oil, it's not about grain, it's not about raw materials, it's about talents. In America, all the lands and raw materials and the oil and the gas only accounted for 40% of the national wealth. The other 60%, for example, from Florida, for example, from Texas, for example, from California, all comes from those companies, cost nothing.
This program right now, I'm sorry I have to pause you there so that we can return to the studios for their final comments here. Now, Prof, what lessons can Nigeria learn from other African countries dealing with China? In 30 seconds.
The government is the overhead. It actually deals with the foreign policy, and the foreign policy posture of Nigeria is actually good and great. The 4Ds, foreign policy. Let's harness that in order to improve the content of the domestic. And the government is the overhead because it deals with the economy, it deals with infrastructure, it deals with education. I'm happy that it changes the primary and secondary curriculum by making sure that students learn skills as well as a digitization of the whole educational system. So if the government should consolidate more effort in making sure that Nigeria is able to decentralize, diversify the economy, as well as we're able to export more and more, sell more, so that we have more national income.
All right, thank you,
Prof.
Giles.
Well,
in 30 seconds, your final thoughts?
Well, a work in progress. We should move on, get on and meet our Chinese partners halfway, bring in, like our friend from Beijing said, get into the works. You don't have to think of what you lose or what you gain. Get into the works. But as you could see, there have been considerable wins. There have been considerable outcomes, tangible ones that have added substantively to our national aggregates. We can do this more. And government is in the lead of this. We would want to see more forceful government policies going forward that clarifies some of these opportunities. We want to see more better clarification, especially bringing in critical stakeholders on board.
Clarity is key for Nigerians to understand. Okay. Professor Sharif Gadi Ibrahim, former head of department, Director, International Center, University of Abuja, and the head of Contemporary China Africa Research in Nigeria. Thank you so much. As always, we appreciate your input into this conversation. Charles Onyunaju, Director, Center for China Studies, Abuja. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. And John Q, CGTN commentator. He's also a fellow of Belt and Road Research Center, Minzu University, Beijing, China. Joined us via Zoom. We appreciate you as always. We'll see you next year.
Next year?
Yes, we'll be discussing China bilateral relations again. So that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. We appreciate your time. To our viewers, we thank you so much for sending in your questions. I'm Jimmy Yusuf.
And I'm Victor Azu. See you tomorrow.